So, thinking about trauma, I like to, first of all, approach it with not so much like tiptoeing tenderness. I feel like there's a lot of people where it's like, oh, we got to be trauma informed. And it's like, really what we got to understand is the nervous system and the way that trauma affects the nervous system. And so if you imagine that you have, well, I have a rubber band right here, but like if you had this rubber band between two like pencils, I'll just use it for an example, right? And you stretch it, well, then you just start twisting it. And this is what's happening to the nervous system when you've experienced trauma. And the more trauma you've experienced, the tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter it becomes. And then this rubber band is just this really clenched up, squeezed thing, right? And so ultimately, after trauma happens, whether it's childhood trauma, whether it's religious trauma, whether it's serving in the military, and that whatever trauma, we all have it. Everybody has it. So after a period of time, your brain and your body start to create this like agreement in order to keep this really wound up energy around the nervous system. And that becomes actually your safe space. And that's how your body and your mind are actually keeping you safe from more trauma, because I've experienced all this shit. My nervous system has to clench and brace itself for the onslaught of any imaginary trauma that might be there. And so the tricky part is, especially about using cannabis meditation or coming to really trying to understand this notion of healing the self and healing yourself of trauma and changing your inner landscape, is that we have to unwind the nervous system. The tricky part comes in is because when we start unwinding the nervous system, the brain goes, holy shit, I'm unsafe. And so even though the effort that we're putting in to unwind the nervous system is actually moving us toward a more peaceful, friendly, flexible experience inside of our own bodies, there's a part of it where the brain is going to cling to that state of being really wound because that's all it knows, that's all it's comfortable with, and that is all that has kept it alive up till this point. So when we talk about a journey of healing of any kind, and I'm saying like, prioritizing rest, and rest doesn't mean laying on the couch watching TV, because it's not changing your nervous system. And so when we are doing anything that's helping us disconnect or disassociate, it helps us feel better, but long term, it's not creating any sense of peace or rest in the body that's actually supporting our wellness. It's just a second for us to kind of disassociate and tune out. Maybe we don't feel the tension in our bodies anymore. So we think we're resting or it feels really good. But in reality, we're not helping the nervous system relearn how to exist on this planet. So that being said, when we start to use cannabis meditation as a modality with the intention for healing ourselves, we have to kind of in some way be prepared to come up against the part of the brain that's going to be very uncomfortable with getting more comfortable, with very triggered even at the idea of softening the nervous system. Because up to this point, the woundedness of your nervous system according to your brain has kept you alive. So when we're working with people that have complex trauma, which every human being on the planet has some form of trauma, that childhood trauma, upbringing, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Then you add the level of psychological and physical trauma that happens through being in the armed forces and the military, and including sexual trauma as a part of it. So now it's like a multi-layered level of trauma that we're working with when you're approaching veterans, right? We're not just dealing with the trauma they experienced in war or in combat, or even in the psychological or the craziness that happens through being a part of these organizations. You still have to address the fact that there's childhood shit that we haven't even touched on. So that being said, is that when I share cannabis meditation with people, I want to continue to remind everybody that our work here is to really soften into the body, knowing that there's going to be a threshold that when we reach that point of softening, the brain is going to trigger a trauma response to get you back into that state of tension or locked or tightness, because the brain genuinely believes this is the only way to keep you alive. So that being said, when we do this practice, we have to sort of gently inch towards those spaces in the body. We have to come close knowing, okay, I'm relaxed, I'm softening. And then when you see and feel that brain kind of being like, oh shit, nope, we got to hold on. You got to cling, you got to attach, you got to do whatever. that's when we really have the opportunity to breathe into that and to say, no, 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 I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm safe in my body. I'm safe. And so what we're doing visually, if you imagine your nervous system like a wound up rubber band, is that we don't want to just pop it off of the thing and just completely open it, because the body will swing in the other direction and won't let that happen. But we want to, with love, gently unwind. And maybe it's 1 or 10 sessions. Maybe it's a year of unwinding that it takes us until we finally get to the place that we go, oh my God, that is rest. Okay. Yes, this is what rest feels like in my body. Once we have it as a marker, we can literally put a stake or a flag in the ground and be like, this is what rest is. This is what rest feels like. So how do we continue with intention to keep unwinding slowly to find that real internal sense of rest? And it's kind of one of those things that's like, if you've never experienced it, you might not know what that is. And then when you experience it, it's like, oh, okay, shit, there it is. That's the thing that we've been talking about. And so for you, for today, I would love to just invite the body into unwinding. We don't need to get all the way to rest today. We don't need to get all the way to like unwinding the nervous system and I'm completely free of trauma. We don't do that in one session, but all we're doing is really inviting the body into the idea of unwinding, inviting the body into the idea of real rest. If you're down.
Yeah, totally down. Question to throw at you.
Yeah.
What's the opposite? Because, a lot of people in our community, myself, will approach like, working out, like an intense workout, like you're going to lift heavy. It's almost like the opposite of softening. You're going in with the most intenseness. And what is that doing to your nervous system? And, can that also be healthy on its own, or would you recommend always including a balance of being able to practice something like this and softening,
I would say balance is always helpful. You always want to find the equal opposing energy. So if you go into the gym in the morning and you just crank it and crush it, it's very, very beneficial because you're, first of all, you're moving energy out of the body. Right. And so that windingness, as your nervous system continues to wind and wind and wind, there's all these little pockets in the body of stuck energy that can't get out. Right. Which is also why we have disassociation, or we have pain, or we have discomfort, because there's these pockets of energy that are kind of crystallizing and they're not being moved. So when you go to the gym and you fucking crush it and crank it, you're really opening those pathways so that you can move that energy. So, but that doesn't help in the softening of the nervous system. And when it comes to supporting people through trauma and healing from trauma, really, that's a really important part of it. However, I will say that if you don't move the energy, then even softening into trauma is still, it's likely that you'll just kind of swing right back into those really tense states. So for me, it's like, I'll do a combination of different yogas or some acrobatics or movement that feels really good. Sometimes it's just like wiggling and shaking in some way so that I can move that energy out, and then I sink into relaxation. So the best thing that you could do is, after you go crank it at the gym, immediately fall as soon as possible. Like, I know you can't meditate in the weight room, but like as soon as possible, I would find a space to then
do in the sauna.
Oh, yes. Perfect. Yeah. So as soon as possible, finding that softening and really, it's one thing to just be like, okay, I'm just sitting here and I'm meditating like it's a to-do list and I need to check off my box. The thing that I hope to teach in teaching meditation is the felt sense of what you feel in your body when your brain shifts into a slower brainwave state. Right. And so when that happens, when your brain shifts into that lower brainwave state, which comes through breath work, it comes after physical exhaustion, when the body is fatigued, right? So that's working out. When your brain shifts into that lower brainwave state, that immediately communicates or signals to the body, we're not in danger. There's no saber-toothed tiger about to pop out around the corner. There's nothing to look out for. There's nothing to process. So you're safe. And so once you can feel that physically in your body, that it feels like this sense of pleasure. It feels like this sense of just kind of melting. There's just this openness and this fluidity that happens in the body, and the sensational quality of it is really quite pleasant. That is the energy that's truly healing. And so since you've gone to the gym and you've opened all your pathways and you've moved some of that energy, then when I drop into that space, it's that healing energy moves through my body with so much more ease. There's no pockets of resistance and there's no disassociation. And so this idea of going and grinding at the gym is all well and done, but a lot of people hold the same thing about going to the gym, that they deserve to be punished. And so they take out this aggressive punishment on themselves at the gym because it makes them feel like they've accomplished something, or it makes them feel strong so that no one can hurt them, or whatever the narrative that we tell ourselves about that. So if you can shift even your relationship to the gym, I'm going to lift weights to open the energy channel, to open and free the nervous system. And then as soon as possible, I'm going to sink into it, because especially after a really hard workout, if you really meditate, the reward really that comes from the working out, it feels so fucking good in the body. It's like pleasurable. And it's amazing that we as humans don't understand pleasure, but that pleasurable sensation as it moves through your body is very, very, very tremendously healing. And you're experiencing the true nature of rest in that moment. And so for most of us, because we're digitally overwhelmed and we're not moving our bodies enough, there's no place for that energy to go. Therefore, there's no opportunity for us to drop into rest. So the combination of a hard workout, of any kind of workout, it can be anything. Like I just spent 4 hours at the gym today doing handstands and flips and all these things. You can move your body and push your body in any way that feels good for you and that is fun. And then it's like, okay, now I'm ready to drop in and feel the fruit of my labor, the fruit of that effort. So yeah, great question.
Damn, that's good. Thank you.
You're so welcome.